welcome to the fourth episode of Bouj and Rouge with our hosts.
Waverly and Dee.
And we have a special guest today, Tiffany Mercer-Robinson. Yay! Tiffany, oh my gosh, like tell us everything. We want to know it all.
What kind of tea do you want?
Well, first, we want to start off to let our listeners know everything about you.
Sure.
Well, not everything, but
But
you know,
it's a little snake.
give them the professional piece of you.
I'm Tiffany Mercer-Robinson. I am the founder and CEO of Radiant Hue, which is an experiential marketing and events agency. Help audiences through authentic marketing without missing the mark. I have been in the communications field for over 10 years. I've worked with nonprofits, big corporations. I'm doing communication strategy, marketing, event planning, graphic design, anything in the creative world. And I have designed stages that have been on BET Awards, and I've worked with Root Picnic. So I have done a lot. I guess done a
Yes.
lot before the 40s.
Yes.
Before the 40s,
Before
okay?
the 40s, and work in the do a lot more.
Tiffany, I love the fact that your marketing agency focuses on the BIPOC population because that is so important because so many times we have been left out at a seat at the table. And
Yes.
so your agency makes it intentional that those chairs are pulled out for us. And so
Yeah.
I applaud you for that.
Thank you. No, definitely for real. When you said we have to create a table, baby, I'm creating a whole room. I'm creating a whole space.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Regardless if it's for the audiences or if it's for, creatives, because when I was trying to find a job, like I guess my backstory of like when I was trying to like find this job, I couldn't. Like I applied so many times to different agencies to work internally with companies. I was even doing my friends' resumes and they were getting jobs. And I was like, well, what is going on with me? And I said, well, I guess I have to take this job that's outside of my field, although I pay for all this education, and be a freelancer at the same time. Basically, how my journey started was like, okay, if you're not going to accept me, I accept myself.
That's
I'm
right.
gonna set the room in a space, and that's one thing that I'm just working hard on as I'm building out the agency is that I'll be able to hire BIPOC creatives where they don't have to feel like they have to code switch when they go into an agency of people that doesn't look like
That's important right there. And I love how the Bible says you supposed to go back and strengthen your brethren. And so I love that you are actually going back and pulling those creatives, that they won't go down the same path that you had to go down. And that's really, yes. That's literally how I built my team. Like I didn't want people to have to struggle the way that I struggled when I tried to start in makeup, and I would call people and ask them about mentorship and they were like, no, we don't do that. And I had to create a space. So I love that you did that for yourself.
Thank you. Still doing the work of the Lord.
Yes.
Listen,
Be
Radiant Hue,
continuous.
right, exactly. Radiant Hue is just like even thinking about the brand, like it's not even just about my personality, my design style, but Radiant Hue is to be a light in the world. So any way that I can do that, I'm going to do it.
I love that. Oh, Waverly, where have she been?
High and under a rock, but now I'm out loud and proud.
Hey.
It took a while. Imposter syndrome is a number one killer for people who own businesses, especially like Black women who own businesses. It's very
Yeah, and I feel like the imposter syndrome is there because there were so many gatekeepers. No one was really sharing the information, and we had to literally fake it until we make it.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And so now with social media, I believe that the doors are like kicked open.
It's a positive to social media, for sure.
Right, it is.
We've talked about who you are, but how has faith played a role in your journey for your business?
I feel like it plays a role every day. It plays me having the faith to be able to jump and just start the business. I remember like it was yesterday, because I've been in business for 7 years. I thought everything had to be perfect. And the church says, come as you are. So while I might be in the background fine-tuning my business, I could still jump out there and say, hey, I'm Tiffany, this is what I do. I'm taking clients X, Y, and Z. They don't know what's going on in the forefront. I think that's where like faith comes in and keeps you strong. My faith also like talking to God, manifesting, asking him what I want, and him coming through with that is a lot. I had just went through a challenge actually last week. I was like, I'm done with this. Like, I need a mental break. I'm exhausted from being an entrepreneur. And I'm like, the money, it's not coming fast enough, God. So true story. I was just over it. I went to the supermarket and I looked at this woman. I never paid her any mind. I get in line to get my groceries or whatever. And this Asian family led me in front of them. And then this white woman appeared out of nowhere. This woman appeared out of nowhere again. And they told her she can get in front. So I was like, since I myself was already rung up, she only had a little bit of stuff. I paid it for her. I was like, just add her stuff to my bill. Right. I think that was the moment where God was like, how dare you be selfish? I gave you this journey. I gave you this platform. I gave you this idea of a business for you to say, I'm quitting. So get it together, sis. Get your mentals together. Keep the faith and keep walking forward. And I'm back on my grind. As I said, I was up since 3:30 last night. So
Hey, sometimes you need a kick in your butt about it.
yes.
Sometimes you need a moment of I'm like, okay, you see what you just did there? Did you see that you were able to, you were having moments of doubt and frustration and stuff like that, but he still was like, hey, you're still covered. I can still take care of you, and you're still making it. You know what I'm saying? So I love that. Y'all gonna make cry this morning. I don't know if I'm ready for that.
I mean, Waverly, I was saying the same thing. Oh my gosh.
Listen.
This is why me and Waverly are like this, okay? Because that's exactly what I was feeling at that moment. When you said that, like that was so real. That hit me in so many ways because there are times as an entrepreneur, even though you are blessed and you have the blessing and you know that you are anointed for this purpose, you feel like you just want to give up. And look, I can go get me an 8 to 5, okay? I had an 8 to 5, okay?
Okay. It's so much easier to do the 8 to 5.
But
Exactly. But that's not what
everybody can't do this.
Right.
They can't. And I think what actually touched my heart too before I left the store is that the woman said nobody has ever paid it forward for her, and she seemed like a middle-aged woman. So I'm like, well, in this retrospect, my clients are probably like, no one that looks like Tiffany has ever cared this much to make sure we're culturally competent, we're culturally relevant. So that's my calling, and that's where I'm supposed to be. So I was like, okay, God, I see what you're saying to me, and I'm listening.
Absolutely. And guess
I
what?
I have a scripture for that, though, D.
Well, bring it on.
Because I'm thinking of a few.
A conference I attended last year. And it talked about how, because D, you made a statement of saying that we were anointed for this. And I want to take it a little further and say that we are mantled for this. Right. So if we, if you go into looking at what the definition of being mantled for, it throws in a couple of ways, but it talks about a garment worn by several prophets, including Elijah and Elisha. So it speaks about how like God, he anointed you for that, for what you're doing. So it's so crazy. The thread that I'm continuously hearing is how you said I couldn't find a job. So I had to tread my way. It was something that Dee and I spoke about the other day, but it talked about like how even though we're in 2024, you would think, is there anything still new that could be created and you can create your own space for it? And it shows it is. Because you wasn't able to find a position for it, so you had to be created in that position. So you are mantled for this. And if I remember, I want to tell you it's Deuteronomy 8:18 that speaks about being mantled, but it's not saying the correct word for me right now. But it says, "But remember the Lord your God, for it is He who gives you the ability to produce well." And so confirms His covenant, which He swore to you, your ancestors, as it is today. So do I need to say that again? Because if you really listen to it, He gives you the ability to produce well. And He swore, this is the promise that He swore to the ancestors.
Yep.
For you to be able to have this. You know what I'm saying? This is a covenant that He created, right?
Absolutely.
So that's what I kept hearing when you were just like, what you've had to experience. And then once Dee said, "Oh, you are anointed for this," I love how we speak about anointing. Anointing is wonderful. But when you go a step further and say, we were mantled for this place. You know what I'm saying? This is something that is steadfast. It's something for us. Throw that in there.
Waverly McSwain.
I'm gonna do a description.
I just want to throw that in there because when she was talking immediately, Deuteronomy 8:18 came to play. I was like, okay,
and it's so funny that you say ancestors because growing up, I could not stand blue and green. And as a baby, I never was able to meet my great grandmother. But my mom said that when I was at her funeral, I started shaking. A week later, I was able to speak in full sentences and I wasn't even one yet. And what I've learned within the last 8 months is that my great grandmother's favorite colors was blue and green. And I couldn't stand it. And that's my brand colors for my company now. When you say like we're mantled for this and ancestors, God give us what, the ancestors was like have, it's very prominent today. So just to tie like all of that in, it's just very interesting.
We passed the collection plate on yesterday. Girl, we about to pass it again. Okay. Woo, I mean,
this just the second question.
Okay, so we can go deeper. What is up?
This is question number 2. I'm just saying, like,
how has Radiant Hue dismantled anti-Blackness?
That's a great question. I would say Radiant Hue is always vigilant and opportunities to educate and create awareness. None of my clients look like me. They might have staff, they might have a couple sprinkle here, sprinkle there, but they don't they don't look like me at all. So I think when they do things that aren't, it's like a side eye or it could be a frown upon in our community or in the BIPOC community, I have to say something. Like I just can't sit back. I have integrity. I want to make sure that my clients always give the top product or the top campaign or whatever it is where they're not missing a mark, right? I don't want my clients to have a situation where Gucci had the blackface situation. I always want them to be educated on like the different cultures and the different backgrounds of where we come from, because we have a whole lot of heritage spread throughout the BIPOC community that they need to be aware of it. So I think that's like one of the top ways that I'm working to dismantle anti-racism and stuff like that. Another thing too is Radiant Hue is building out a mandatory cultural competent training that all clients have to go through when they sign up to be with Radiant Hue to sign on. If you're not going to pay for it, then you can't be a client.
I think it's important that big corporations really, and I know that a lot of people have included DEI within their corporations now. It's been the big buzzword for the last couple of years. DEI this, DEI that. But I think for you as an agency to bring awareness and then even to take it a step further to actually implement them signing to go through this in order for your company to take them on as a client.
No half stepping over here.
Look, I applaud you.
Thank you.
Because you're right. Had Gucci done that,
had H&M done that,
had
a lot of brands had people that look like us sit in these rooms with top positions, then some of these things would have never happened.
Top positions and willing to speak up.
That part.
Because it is oftentimes that we are in those rooms and we're afraid to speak up.
That is true.
Then you get those moments that aren't supposed to be out there.
Right.
Or should they be out there? Because now we see who you are. I'm just leaving that right there. The BIPOC was created because these cultures collectively have been overlooked, as we said. Do you see a change in the creative landscape you're a part of?
I would say yes and no. I would say yes, because I feel like you're seeing BIPOC people more, especially being a creative or being a graphic designer. But because we're so few, far, and in between, that it's like really sad, right? So like this book behind me, it's called The Black Experience Design. This is about designers, right? That's Black or BIPOC. Look how small this book is. Like this book is very small. It's maybe like a 500-page book. So that's why I was like, yes and no. And the reason why I also say no too is because sometimes it's almost like the buy Black movement. Oh, let me find a Black creative that I could add to my team. Let me find a Black writer or a BIPOC this. And sometimes I just feel like it's not as authentic as it should be. So that's why it's like I have like kind of like a mixed review when it comes to the industry and having BIPOC creatives.
Love your honesty on that. And that makes perfect sense.
That does make perfect sense.
Are they striving to be better? Yes. You do have organizations that try to. I remember that there was a woman who had an agency, and she was like, how do I want to hire more BIPOC people. So I'm like, yeah, sure, we can have a chat or we can sit down and have coffee. And she's like, no, I just wanted you to send me the steps of how I can get this done. And I'm just like, all right, so you continue to run your white-led firm, and you will, if you get BIPOC people, that chair will overturn all the time because you're not even taking the time to go into the community to build relationships or even learn or educate yourself about the community. You just want to fill a seat for affirmative action.
See, Phyllis.
No investment.
You just want to appeal, you just want to appeal to clients or brands that is doing the work in BIPOC communities by having this token person on staff because you want to get that collective coin, but you're not really doing the work. Or you want those grants because the government gives out, grants and puts you on these different contracts if you have these particular people in your agency. But baby, you have to do the work. So that's why I say my answer is like mixed. It's like yes and no.
So I think that you hit on a very interesting subject because I used to write grants for institution of higher education. And you are absolutely correct. A percentage of money is earmarked to businesses with minority employees. Seat fillers, token people are a thing. And that's why I said earlier about you have to have people that are willing to take up that space and actually speak up for diversity and inclusion.
Exactly. And I think that's why I kind of built my agency to talk about it the way I talk about it, where I say culturally competent and culturally relevant, because that's like the first part. How can you be diverse and inclusive if you can't start at the root of the issue and the root of the problem? Because you have to be these different things before you can even, to me, diversity and inclusion is you being culturally forward. But you got to go back for the first two to be relevant and to be competent.
And diverse, equal, and inclusive.
Right.
Meaning all genders, all races.
Right.
You have to have all of those things. It's not by accident we had you on our podcast. I love it that you are a graphic designer because you have to identify colors. And of course, as makeup artists and hairstylists, we all work in that realm of color. So I love this whole position that you are in, with graphic designing. It's just another, although we're talking about the beauty industry, you're also crossing that industry as well. Although you're not a makeup artist, you're still a part of the creative space.
Right.
That we as artists, because that's the key word, whether it's makeup, whether it's hair, we're all artists, we're all creatives.
Exactly.
And so I love it that you are here. That just makes my heart warm.
And I mean too, color goes a long way though. Even though you paint it on someone's face, well, if we're having a campaign, why would we have cool colors on a brown person? Like it just doesn't add up. We need the warmth.
No, that don't work.
It don't work.
That dog don't hunt, like, baby. That dog don't hunt.
So, right, exactly. So whether it's graphic design or I'm on set helping somebody shoot a commercial, I still got to use some color theory, just like you have to use color theory, okay?
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely. And not watching YouTube trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm leave that alone. I'm leave that right there. Leave that right there. Good. I love this. Tiffany, where you been? Girl, where you been?
Been hiding in Philly on my lonesome.
You're out.
I am out.
You're out. Like,
it's a blessing to be connected to women in your city, but a lot of times the virtual connections are just as strong and just as real.
Yes.
So, if not better.
If not better. Because I feel like I'm connected to you now.
Because we have the fireside chat.
Yes, I love that.
And I've been getting chills the whole time we've been talking. So
yay, I love that. So how have you posed Radiant Hue to become the next multi-million-dollar company?
Ooh, child. So first, it goes back to the question about faith, right? Because the sky, we can go higher than the sky. Like, what's up top is God. So we could keep going all the way up. So he is always at the forefront of creating this $1 million company, right? But also, too, I do a lot of visioning and a lot of manifesting. You have to, I'm now not saying that I didn't before, but I'm really now starting to look at my business. It might be small in numbers right now, but it's going to be a corporation. And the vision, what does that look like? What is the company culture? What are the perks and the benefits I want to give to my employees that sign on? So it's all of the above. That's how, I vision this $1 million company and I manifest it and I ask God for it. But you have to be ready too. So while I'm doing that work, I'm behind the scenes. I'm looking at my processes. I'm looking at, the different things I could streamline and automate to make the business just even better. So that when it is $1 million or $1 billion company, it's not acting as like a corner store lot or something like that. It's all the way always going to be 100% 360 professional. So
I love
sure
that.
those symptoms are in place.
And you're right. God is preparing you.
Yes, exactly. I can feel it.
These steps that you are taking right now, he is preparing you to operate in that $1 million atmosphere. Because we can't think the same way.
No. It's a whole different mindset.
So how did you start shifting your mindset in order to get yourself ready to be a multi-million-dollar business?
I think it's the whole circle of surrounding yourself by the right people. I think one thing that helped is like, I used to have a poverty mindset. And how can you have a poverty mindset, but you want to have $1 million? right? So
Mhm.
sometimes you have to act off of things and just know that God got you. Even if you have to hire and you don't have the money in the bank, even if you're like, I have $600 in the bank and my card note is due, this is due, like just remaining and keeping the faith, right? It's all in a mindset change. I think another thing too is that help is always not only like being around people, but like expanding that network. So if I know I want to be a $1 million company, I hang out with my other friends too. I hang out with my small business owners, but I have to go in the $1 million rooms. Okay. I gotta either whether it's going to a conference or having other mentors or people that I can talk to that are close to the $1 million company or have $1 million company or have $1 million connections. I think that's how I start to change like my mindset, and it's $1 million, $1 million all the way.
You covered it all. Most definitely. Being in the room is what helps to expand you as a person, your mindset, and just as a business and all. So yeah.
And knowing
I
how
love
to
that answer.
respond once you're in the room.
Exactly. That's a big
Is
thing as well.
very important.
Yes.
That comes with receiving, though. You know what I mean when I say that? Because when you say how you respond, you got to, when you walk in that room, you got to be able to receive everything that's coming your way. And then you can respond to it, because you look at it and you be like, oh, you could do two things. You could either walk in that room and get scared and just like shut down and completely not just show who you are.
Right.
Or could say, you know what? Although I'm in $1 million room, there are people who have already hit the 7 figures. I need to show up because I'm gonna be there. So just responding in that way is sometimes it takes even a fight once you get there. Not always easy when you walk in the room.
Right. It's not.
I think knowing that you are deserving to be in that room.
And I always have to go back to, if you have to have your Issa Rae moments from Insecure and be in that mirror before you step into those rooms, then you just gotta do that. Say your $1 million mantras, whatever they might be. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because we're so quick to sabotage, it's like, everybody has teams. Like, right now, right now in this space, I could say, well, I don't have a team. I'm a solo entrepreneur. Tiffany, you say you're building your team, and then D has a team. I could have shrunk back, but I know that I'm taking my time, but I'm also building my team, even if it's just like literally one by one.
And that's fine.
And right. So even in this space, I could have shrunk, but it sounds like I love it. I love to even see how you guys are going about, building your team. Like how you say, like you're looking at the background, you're looking at like what steps to take for this multi-billion-dollar corporation and how to make sure your systems are in place because that is how it works smoothly.
Right.
So, just learning to take those gems that people are saying, you have to be able to receive that.
Yeah, and learning about the lessons that we've learned on our journey can also make you be more aware of who you're choosing
100%.
in order for you to build a better team. There's no reason for anyone to shrink because we all belong in this space.
Right. Team or no team.
Such a time as this.
Right. And I was going to say team or no team, we still cry. So it's no point. We all still go through the same things. Okay. We all still bleed the same. It's no point in even shrinking.
So Tiffany, tell us how you show up as a woman of faith.
I think showing up as a woman of faith I think people could see it, right? It gives that like radiant, genuine energy that makes the journey easier, right? It's easier for me to show up for my clients because they know I'm going to always be my authentic self. It helps me show up in to rooms, because when people talk to you, they're trying to figure out if they could trust you or not. It's just there. I think when you're grounded in God and grounded in the Bible and grounded in doing faith work and doing the work that you're supposed to do, that your outcomes, not saying that they're always going to be good, but your outcomes are different than those who don't do the faith work.
I absolutely love that. Oh, Tiffany.
So D, you see why she was needed to be on this podcast?
Yes, I do. Absolutely.
And it took me a long time to talk like this. Listen, I looked at the questions last night and I was like, God, I'm not even going to try to like put together answers. Whatever be is going to be done in the spirit, because whoever is listening may potentially need some of these answers. So why would I even try to rehearse anything? Let it be natural, authentic, and real self.
Waverly and I will just go down the rabbit hole.
I like rabbit holes.
Tiffany, give us three tips to help us with supporting BIPOC.
Sure. I would say that the 3 C's. So one, sure you push the mark to be culturally forward. How you do that is you want to amplify BIPOC voices. And that's how you're culturally competent. To do that, you want to understand the heritage, the histories that different cultures have gone through. You want to resonate authentically and place yourself in those shoes. Even when you have like a business, however you can include that, or even telling your story of what your heritage is. You just want to always make sure that not only people BIPOC is seen, but their voices are heard. Secondly, you want to be culturally relevant. You want to invest in BIPOC businesses. We always say buy Black, but why can't we do BIPOC? We're all brown people, right? So that's definitely important. You want to be very intentional when you're actually spending or you're doing business with. Like in the beauty industry, they might be a brow pencil that you like to use, but it might be by somebody that don't look like us. So how can we change that? And just always accepting diverse perspectives is always a thing to do when we're trying to invest in business. And then to be culturally forward, I would just say the third thing is to always educate and advocate. We can go out for Black people matter, BIPOC matter, because we all have gone through the same racial discrimination. Just making sure that we educate and advocate is definitely important. So 3 C's.
And I think that we are being culturally forward now by educating our listeners on how to be more inclusive.
Yes.
And intentional.
Especially with building relationships. You have to be intentional.
Yes, you definitely have to be intentional in building relationships. Because if you don't, then you just another business.
Okay. That's on period.
Share a piece of business advice for a novice entrepreneur.
I think the best piece of advice, and it's something that I always push, is to be authentic. Because people can, you know how they say dogs can smell fear? People can smell fakeness. When you're starting up as a business person, it's always easy to look to social media and say, hey, I want to be like this business, or why don't I have a G-Wagon yet? Or why don't I have 4,000 followers? Some of those people live fake lives. So if you're in your lane and being in your authentic lane, everything that's for you is going to come to you. Yes, it takes hard work and dedication, but people could definitely smell the fake. So I would say being authentic is very important for somebody that's starting up the journey. It also leads into integrity. Everything that you do, you should basically be to have integrity. Always speak up, basically, for what you believe in, whether it's for your business or your client, or just using the right, like if it's a product business, using the right products in your business, or giving the right advice if you're a service provider is very important. So those are my top 2 things. They're characteristics that not everybody have, but you should work on them. When you start doing all that and you start deep diving, you might need to go on a social media break. You might need to take yourself away from the world to do the work. Like people do be authentic, but sometimes it's just hard to show who you are as a person when you have like so many things of the world, bringing it back to God. You have so many things of the world controlling your mind. So
I used to say all the time that I'm running with blinders. Like I can look, if I keep looking back at what such and such is doing with their bridal team or their bridal company, or what this person is doing with their bridal stuff, or how many followers they have and how many opportunities they have received and stuff like that. I have to literally run with blinders on. Like the horses, when you're on a horse race, the horse has blinders
tunnel vision.
because it has to have that tunnel vision. Because if it be distracted by what's next to them, then they'll lose the race. Well, in my case, if I look back, I might turn into a pillar of salt.
Okay, lots, wife.
That's right.
Or smack right into a brick wall, one or the other. I don't want either.
Right. No, I have to run with blinders so I can have tunnel vision. I can't worry about what such and such is doing over here, because what's working for them is working for them.
Right.
What's for them is for them. What's for me is for me.
Right.
And that's literally how Bouj and Rouge came about.
And that's on period. I'm bougie. I like being bougie, so you know.
If Boujee is having doors open for you that no man can shut, I'll take it.
Let them fly open constantly.
I'll take it. I'll take it. If Boujee is for creating doors that no man has seen, I'll take it.
Sign me right on up.
I just want to wrap this up by letting the people know.
Can't know who they're dealing with.
You said they're dealing with.
They said they dealing with a force, honey.
I love that. With the shoulder
Tiffany Mercer-Robinson.
How can our listeners follow you, follow your journey?
They can either follow me on my personal Instagram, which is The Cultured CEO, or on my business Instagram, which is by Radiant Hue. I always tell people to stay radiant.